At this moment, the most enigmatic object ever to cross into our solar system is now less than 8 million miles from Earth and drawing closer by the hour. That's about 30 times the distance to the moon, a fleeting instant on a cosmic scale. And NASA has fallen completely silent. 3 weeks ago, the agency was issuing daily briefings on 3I/Atlas, the interstellar visitor that has defied established physics since its discovery. Press conferences, data drops, expert commentary. Everything flowed freely. Then, without warning, it all ceased. Public updates were abruptly canceled. Live telescope streams went offline. And suddenly, every NASA spokesperson began repeating the same line: no comment at this time. What remains unspoken is far more unsettling. Military satellites have been repositioned to monitor Atlas continuously. Emergency response protocols, typically reserved for incoming nuclear threats, have been discreetly activated. Restricted airspace zones have quietly appeared above major cities, with no public explanation. When an agency known for transparency suddenly says nothing, it's never because there's nothing to say. It's because what they've uncovered is too disturbing to release. Something about 3I/Atlas has changed, something that has transformed scientific curiosity into a classified emergency. And we have less than 3 weeks to understand what NASA knows but refuses to disclose. For months, NASA's handling of 3I/Atlas was marked by unprecedented openness. A senior scientist from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory held weekly briefings. Data from the James Webb Space Telescope was released publicly within hours of collection. Amateur astronomers around the globe were encouraged to observe the object and share their findings. Then the tone shifted overnight. A senior astronomer involved in the Atlas Observation Program described the moment everything stopped. We were scheduled for our usual Thursday briefing. 30 minutes before it began, we were ordered by NASA headquarters to cancel, not delay, cancel permanently. Within 2 hours, all external communications were classified. We were warned that discussing Atlas outside secure channels could lead to termination and possible criminal charges. The official reasoning cited vague, bureaucratic language about data validation and international coordination. But veteran NASA scientists say they've never witnessed a shutdown this sudden. More troubling still, the silence spread beyond NASA. The European Space Agency stopped releasing Atlas data. China's space program, previously racing to publish discoveries, went dark. Russia's Roscosmos erased earlier statements from official platforms. When rival space agencies, normally driven by competition, suddenly enforce a unified blackout, something has overridden decades of geopolitical tension. And whatever that is, it's deeply alarming. A former NASA administrator, speaking anonymously, explained the protocol. There are only 3 situations that trigger a total international communications blackout: an imminent collision threat with no time to evacuate, detection of hostile military technology, or confirmation of extraterrestrial intelligence. According to him, nothing else justifies this level of secrecy. Public records show NASA requested emergency funding authorization from congressional oversight committees. The exact amount remains classified, but budget analysts estimate it lies between $15 and $40 billion, funds that require no public justification and minimal oversight. Before the blackout, the final public Atlas data revealed measurement scientists are still struggling to interpret. Reviewing those reports clarifies why transparency may have been deemed too dangerous. Atlas's trajectory had shifted, not dramatically, but unmistakably. It was expected to follow a hyperbolic path, pass Earth, and exit the solar system. Instead, calculations showed it slowly curving inward, losing velocity in a manner suggesting intentional course correction rather than gravitational influence. In the final public briefing, a JPL orbital mechanics specialist stated, the velocity changes we're seeing would require continuous thrust over several weeks or gravitational assist from objects that don't exist. Neither explanation aligns with known natural processes. Electromagnetic emissions intensified as Atlas approached. It had been transmitting mysterious mathematical signals, but in the final week before the blackout, signal strength surged by a factor of 300. What once required sensitive radio telescopes became powerful enough to disrupt commercial satellites. Cell networks in parts of North America and Europe experienced unexplained outages during precise windows that matched moments when Atlas passed directly overhead. Visual data added another layer of concern. Before being asked to stop sharing observations, amateur astronomers reported structured lights on the object's surface, not random reflections, but repeating geometric patterns. An observer in Chile captured video of what looked like a grid of lights activating across Atlas, remaining visible for 47 minutes before fading. The footage went viral, then vanished after government agencies requested its removal on national security grounds. NASA's final public statement came from a deputy administrator during a hastily arranged press conference. We want to assure the public that 3I/Atlas presents no immediate danger to Earth. Observations will continue through appropriate channels. Further updates will be provided as information becomes available. Every word was carefully vetted by legal teams, and what it omitted spoke volumes. As NASA fell silent, the military accelerated into action. Space Force assets that officially don't exist were activated. Missile tracking satellite networks were redirected to maintain constant surveillance of Atlas. Classified orbital platforms repositioned themselves into optimal observation angles. NORAD raised its alert status to levels unseen since the Cold War. Nuclear command and control aircraft began continuous flights over designated regions. A former Air Force officer familiar with strategic defense protocols explained, "This mobilization matches response plans for detection of an unknown object with potential hostile capabilities approaching Earth without time for diplomacy." This isn't scientific preparation. It's first contact readiness under threat conditions. Restricted airspace zones emerged above major metropolitan areas, officially attributed to training exercises. Yet flight data shows these zones align with Atlas's line of sight during closest approach. Underground command facilities were activated. Staffing at Cheyenne Mountain increased by 400%. Similar patterns appeared in Russia, China, and NATO facilities. FEMA quietly staged disaster response equipment, medical supplies, water purification systems, emergency communications, positioned for widespread infrastructure disruption. A Homeland Security analyst summarized the logistics. This looks like preparation for mass casualty scenarios combined with communications failure. They're not planning for one disaster. They're preparing for cascading system failures. The National Guard was placed on standby in 37 states under routine readiness drills. Yet the scenarios include civil unrest, infrastructure collapse, and non-standard threat responses, terminology reserved for unconventional dangers. This isn't the first time space agencies have gone quiet. In the 1990s, military satellites tracked an unknown object in high Earth orbit for 3 weeks before all data was classified. Officially labeled Soviet debris, declassified documents later revealed multiple course corrections, something debris cannot perform. A former NSA analyst recalled, "We detected something artificial that wasn't ours and didn't belong to any known program." Public disclosure was deemed too risky. Another incident involved an object approaching the International Space Station closer than safety limits. Astronauts described a metallic sphere maintaining position for hours. NASA dismissed it as a weather balloon, despite balloons being incapable of orbital velocity. Space agencies have established protocols for unknown objects exhibiting intelligent behavior. These prioritize information control to prevent panic while responses are developed. A congressional staffer who attended classified briefings explained, "There's an assumption that the public can't handle certain truths. Whether that's right or wrong, it shapes every decision." With 3I/Atlas, the shift from openness to total blackout happened in less than 72 hours, suggesting discovery of a reality-altering anomaly. Despite official silence, independent observers continue tracking Atlas. Observatory networks outside government control report continued trajectory changes. Atlas is no longer on a simple hyperbolic path. It's executing spiral approach maneuvers, maintaining precise geometric relationships with Earth. A university astronomer noted, "This isn't gravity capture. It's navigation toward a destination." Signals have evolved into possible image data. Some decoded sequences resemble star maps from a foreign perspective. Others appear to depict Earth itself, continents, oceans, even city lights. Observers report Atlas ejecting smaller objects, forming geometric formations. Radar data suggests a rotating section generating exactly 1 g of artificial gravity. Atlas's closest approach is now less than 3 weeks away. Current models suggest it may slow to a relative stop at approximately 500,000 miles from Earth. Close enough for observation, distant enough to remain beyond defensive reach. A military analyst stated, "That's the perfect position for reconnaissance." The timing aligns with a new moon, low solar activity, and disadvantageous satellite positioning. The odds of this occurring naturally are roughly 1 in several million. Behind closed doors, governments prepare for multiple outcomes. Emergency UN Security Council sessions have convened. Intelligence agencies model social responses from panic to societal collapse. Some nations consider unilateral action. Others prepare for peaceful contact or even refugee scenarios. The central question remains unanswered. What are Atlas's intentions? 3 weeks from now, we'll know. Either Atlas passes harmlessly, or humanity faces the most profound moment in its history. An object from another star system is maneuvering, broadcasting, and preparing. And every government on Earth is treating it as the defining event of our time, while refusing to say why. Observations from independent astronomers indicate that Atlas is not merely approaching, it is actively studying. Infrared imaging shows thermal variations across its surface that suggest the object is scanning Earth in systematic sweeps. One sequence of thermal maps reveals patterns that align with major population centers, transport hubs, and strategic infrastructure. An astrophysicist who analyzed the data explained, "The heat signatures indicate focused observation, not random activity. It's mapping, surveying, or gathering information." Radar returns suggest the object is emitting pulses at multiple frequencies simultaneously, some overlapping standard communication bands, others far beyond known human technologies. The interference is subtle but measurable. GPS signals fluctuate, long-range radio transmissions experience static bursts, and even certain astronomical instruments register anomalies when Atlas is near the horizon. A communications engineer with decades of satellite experience described the phenomenon. "It's as if it's deliberately probing our systems, testing our defenses, or attempting to synchronize with our networks." Meanwhile, the smaller objects Atlas has ejected appear to be forming an adaptive lattice. Observers in multiple hemispheres report that these secondary bodies are not stationary. They move relative to both Atlas and each other, maintaining exact geometric spacing. "This is active network configuration," said an aerospace engineer reviewing the data. "Each piece maintains line of sight to both the primary object and neighboring satellites. The level of coordination is beyond anything humans have deployed." Even amateur visual observations are alarming. Before being told to halt, several astronomers documented unusual reflective phenomena. Strips of light forming apparent alphanumeric sequences across the surface of Atlas. The patterns are not constant. They blink, shift, and rotate in intervals too precise to be random. One observer in South Africa recorded a sequence that appeared to repeat every 12 minutes, then disappear entirely, only to reappear in a slightly modified form. Attempts to interpret the patterns suggest the possibility of dynamic signaling, like a rotating display or a coded transmission. The object's movement in space further defies conventional physics. Orbital mechanics specialists are baffled. While Atlas's primary trajectory appears hyperbolic, it executes precise course adjustments inconsistent with gravitational perturbations. These adjustments are small, but deliberate, suggesting onboard propulsion or control systems beyond current human understanding. A retired JPL physicist described the data. We're seeing delta-V changes that cannot be explained by gravitational forces alone. It implies active navigation. That's unprecedented for any known natural object. The electromagnetic signals, initially mathematical sequences, have evolved into complex, multi-layer transmissions. Some researchers claim to detect structures resembling digital encoding, while others interpret sections as low-resolution imagery. Early decoding attempts hint at representations of stellar configurations unknown to modern catalogs, potentially a star map of a home system, possibly marking a route through interstellar space. Another segment appears to display Earth with remarkable fidelity. Continental outlines, major rivers, and clusters of artificial illumination on the night side of the planet. These interpretations remain unconfirmed, but the implications are staggering. If accurate, Atlas is not only observing Earth. It is capable of collecting, processing, and transmitting highly detailed visual data